Hey guys, this is going to be such a cool little scene. My daughters and I are on vacation and found a little small coral and a pink scallop shell. So for this one, we don't need a traceable. It's a kind of little bit simple organic shape. So go ahead and sketch in the coral in a Y shape, make a circle for the opening of the coral. And then the shell shape, just keep in mind that the corners they're tilted so that they're lining up. And then we're gonna wet the background. If I had to do this one over, I'm doing the voiceover after, I would do it maybe in a light turquoise or a little bit of a turquoise. But I did choose, which is kind of nice too, I have a cerulean blue and then a manganese blue hue. You can use any blue you have. And for the little background, I wet the whole background, and then let's put this, drop it in. I'm concentrating on putting more color in the corner, and then sort of making a vignette look. So to keep in mind, once it's finished, I realize I want the coral and the shell to pop a little bit more. So we're going to even add more color, background color around the main focus. So if you want to do that now, go ahead and do it. Bring that background blue up. We're negatively painting around the coral and the shell. But you can go ahead and drop it in closer and deepen it closer to the shell. And I'm not really brushing around too much, just dropping color. And I'm also going to put a little darker phthalo blue. It's like a turquoise. Not the turquoise I'd be going for if I were doing it again. It would be like an ocean turquoise, but I do like this one. It's a deep turquoise. More green than blue a little bit. More blue than green, I should say. Okay, now let's get a tan color. I'm first going to wet the coral background, being careful not to touch where I just did the background and have them blend together. But to get a tan, you can do a really light brown by using way more water than brown. I have a titanium white in Daniel Smith that's sort of just like a tan, really nice neutral. So I'm going to use that. You can also put a little yellow into brown and then water. So I'm just putting this and dropping some color around the coral piece, around the shell, and then putting some darker, some more pigment towards the bottom where there'd be a shadow. And then starting to work on the opening onto hollow at the front. I'm painting this while we're here. Super spoiled and super happy. I do points, chase points, Hyatt points, and it's really allowed a lot of really cool travel. Okay, then I just added a little bit more brown with a touch of purple to outline that hole a little bit more, and then to put in the bottom of the coral to shade a little bit. And now a little bit of yellow ochre, any kind of yellowy, light, maybe even a little orange. It's just giving a little bit of warmth to the edges of the coral. And then also making some dots. You could use a gray, a dark brown. This will lighten up a little as it dries, but we need to apply some texture on this. I'm using the back side of my Arches cold press paper, so it's a little bit smoother than the front side, but it wouldn't be enough texture anyway. If we were to dry brush on this, we need to add it in. You could flick texture on with a toothbrush or just banging your brushes on it, but I'm just going to paint the dots in. Some of them are big enough to do that. And then you can strengthen a little. Now, let's work on the shell, and I'm going to wet this first, do it wet on wet, and then do it wet on dry. So I have a quinacridone coral, and it's a little bit of magenta, sorry. It's a little bit of a purpley pink. Like you could use a quin rose, quin magenta, and really water it down. And just do the top. So these little side pieces of the shell, we're going to do darker because they're underneath. And I took a picture of these together, and I'm using the photo to look at. I'll put the photo reference in too. I'll put that in the beginning. So I want to keep this little area, it's kind of raised up back here. I want to keep it lighter. And I covered it already with the pink. So I'm using water and then a dry brush. And so it's basically erasing some of that coin rose that we got in there. So I just want that little dot back there to be open. And now I'm doing that same technique to pull some of the paint from the shell in curved shapes. And at the very tip, where we have that kind of wavy edge of the shell. So I just want that to be lighter. Okay, we're gonna let that dry. We're gonna come back to our coral. And I'm using that same, whatever tannish color you had mixed up, like a brown with water, or a brown and yellow with water. Mix a few of your colors up. And we're gonna put some in the hole, put some where we had added before. And this part was drier than it was before, so we can go ahead and do it. And now I'm not wetting anything, just wet on dry. I'm doing that same technique around the hole to make that a little lighter there. There's a highlight there. And I'm using water and a clean brush and then dabbing with my napkin, paper towel, to get it off. Okay, let's dab in. I'm dabbing in a tiny bit of Payne's Gray because I really want this to be even darker than it was. You could do a darker brown, and then while I have that on, we'll do a few more dots in places. I'm going to concentrate some of the holes and the darker dots sort of around the bottom area. Okay, same thing. We're just darkening a little bit. That's all we're doing. This really doesn't have a lot going on. This one's really kind of an approachable one. It looks harder than it is. Okay, we let the shell dry a little. It's still damp, which is fine. Take our strongest our strongest pigment. So the brush was fairly dry, and then put some pigment on the same Quin rose color, whatever pinky you're using, you can put that there. And then we want to strengthen up the lines at towards the bottom and just defining these bands a little bit at the top and the bottom. I'm just dragging my brush back and forth. I just want that to be a little bit darker. And then while I have this on it, let's go ahead and draw some of these lines in. You're going to make them diagonal as they go and then start straightening them up. Straighten them up straight back now. Now diagonal facing the other direction. And see, we're dragging it, but when I'm dragging it, I'm making the darker towards the edge, and then I'm not making as dark as I get towards that edge of the shell. And then go ahead and really outline the side of it. You can hear some of the beach music we've got in the background. This is as authentic as it gets, guys. We've got the pool programming out there, just water aerobics time. Water aerobics, and I'm finishing my painting up on the balcony. Okay, so we're gonna let that dry a little bit, because if we start messing with it too much more, it's gonna blend everything together. But I do want to add a little peach color towards the end, just to introduce another color. Just a little peach, because I can see that in my photo when I zoom in a little. So this one have a little bit of yellow ochre and a Naples yellow. But if you don't have that, you can mix up a little yellow, red, make like a light peach, and just drop it into some places towards the front of the shell. I'm really using my napkin, my paper towel a lot today, but I am trying to keep the white areas, the light areas, and not get them too dark. Okay, keep adding. We're going to keep adding. Just kind of outline the areas, edges. So we're going around. And then especially in the corners, where the top part of the shell meets back. This is my favorite paper towel again. But keep a dry paper towel handy. Always to dry off brush when you need to, or to pull off some color when you need to. Another really good thing if you're doing minis like I am, I'm doing a 3x3, is a Q-tip. Okay. I have I got a light brown to add to this too, along the inside. And I'm going to drag that forward a little bit. And saying along the bottom, this is our third layer of shadowing. Just really vary it up. Put a little stroke here, a little stroke there. Just keep it really organic. Added just a little bit more peach there. We have got a base pumping out there. I'm going to do some more shell collecting later. Okay, and then let's shade one side of it a little bit more so you can just, this is dry now, so I'm not risking pulling all these lines around and stuff. See, they're still staying there. I'm not softening them or blending them. I'm putting a wash on top to make it a little darker in some areas, like on the edges, where it would kind of curve down. Think of it as the top of the shell coming up towards us more, the sides going down. So we want that to reflect that those are darker. And then I'm just going to make these little bumps down here, little waves to show that those are there with my colors. So I'm just doing like little upside down U's, little arches between all the lines. A little bit more color towards the edge. Now we're on our third layer here as well. I found that I'm usually doing 3 or 4 layers in washes in most scenes. Okay, what I wanted to do is also just have a little bit more purpley into that middle band, just a little, because I'm seeing that in the picture too. It's not like a white there, so I'm going to add a little. I just put a tiniest bit of purple, washed it in, tiny. It just needed to be a little darker and a little more purpley rose, and I'm putting that in the white band. I'm softening up the tip. Now, my favorite, guys, white acrylic paint marker. You could also use gouache, or you could use white paint. You could use potentially a chalk pencil. This is just to get the highlight. I want the top of this to kind of pop against the background, and also I'm going to add above the darker bumps that we made. I'm going to add a little bit to look like those are popping up at the edge of the shell. I'm just putting some dots here and there. It's a little bit lighter than it even should be, but I just kind of like how that looks. And then the edge of the shell, I didn't want it to be outlined in dark. I wanted it to be just there. It's kind of up. And then I'm using a little brush with a little water just to drag a little bit of the color, the tan, over the white a little, because I felt like it might be too white. And here's the deal, guys. So I decided that the coral's kind of disappearing in there. So how can we do it? The problem solving here is to darken the background a little bit more. So I'm going to randomly drop in some of this purpley color, make it kind of oceany back here. and then darker blue around everything. So I feel like this is going to make it pop more. See what we're just doing this. I'm going to make sure we have it kind of everywhere. It's going to spread around. Careful not to get it in any areas that are wet still. But see what I mean, guys? It's really just popping out more. I didn't really know how it was going to come out, so whatever. Art's one big, right, happy accident. You can figure it out as you go. You're doing a lot of problem solving along the way. I think this is the solution here.
Okay, I'm loving it. I hope you guys love it as well. And I wish you were here with me on this balcony. But until then, we can paint it, like and subscribe, and there'll be tons more cool stuff in the new year.